Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to be doing Angron versus Lord Invocatus. Now, this isn't going to be a one-on-one fight analysis because I think that might be a little bit one-sided. No, this is looking at each of these special characters and what do they offer in the World Eater's army. What can they do in damage? What can they offer the army in abilities? Are they worth their points? Really examining how they work. So with that, let's have a look at these brand new special characters. Let's start off by discussing the Demon Primarch Angron. So he comes in at mighty 360 points, but quite a lot higher than the Lord Invocatus, but actually quite a bit cheaper than some of the Demon Primarchs. So the pros are, he is obviously a massive damage dealer. That damage 3 plus D3 or triple attacks is going to cause a large amount of casualties, far more than I believe the Lord Invocatus could do. He also has Reborn in Blood, allowing a lot of psychological games. For instance, you could say, well, you know, your opponent, you've killed Angron. If you kill another unit, I'll be able to resummon him next turn. But if you don't kill any more, I won't be able to. And that might make your opponent question, well, what am I going to do if I kill more units? Angron's going to come back. Should I work on maybe weakening others? Just that sort of real psychological profile. You can sort of go, well, what are you going to do? Because that might be a real danger. Or you might trick your opponent to say, look, you've got to keep him at a low bracket because although he'll still be deadly, if you destroy him, I'll bring him back into middle bracket and be even more deadly. Or possibly appear on a side of the field they don't want. So a little bit of psychological games you can play with Angron in terms of what you're going to do if he comes back. Righteous Slaughter can possibly hold units in combat protecting him. So, you know, what you could do is you could maybe consolidate into units, say wipes out a unit that he was against, consolidate into a unit, and then force them not to be able to flee. And that would essentially protect him from a turn of shooting, because unless your opponent can shoot into combat, that's really not going to happen. So, interesting side of one of his auras that he can do. That might be quite worth it. His mobility is great. At lowest brackets, not as good, but certainly at the beginning he is an absolute leaper. He's going to jump right across the field. And then I'd probably say he's actually quite affordable at 360 points. Sure, he only does one thing, which is hit, and hit hard. But his mobility and absolute threat just means that your opponent will have to think twice as he's roaming across the battlefield. His cons, though, I'd say, is a mediocre warlord trait that is kind of mandatory if you take him. Unless you've got another model with a similar ability, he will be your warlord, and you may not be interested in actually using his warlord traits. You wouldn't be paying for it. Lacking survivability, especially when compared to the other Primarchs, because, well, he's only tough 7. He has 2 up save and 4 up invul, where the other ones I think reduce damage. I believe both Mortarion and Magnus can, or at least Magnus can through his warlord trait, and then he has a few spells up his sleeve that can help. Angron, not so much, but I suppose he makes up for that with Reborn from Blood, or Reborn in Blood. And then he's not Strength 16, which I'm wondering why he really should be. He starts out at 9, plus 5, brings to 14, then his Legion trait really brings him up to 15, but he's not getting 16. And I believe the other Primarchs can, or at least Demon Primarchs can get 16, or already 16. So it feels really odd that Angron should not be 16. That means toughness 8 stuff he'll be wounding on 3s, I believe, which seems really unusual. He should, for what he does, really be hint stuff at wounding on 2s if they're toughness 8. And now on to the Lord Invocatus. So quite a bit of a point difference, 160 points. That's a 200 point difference total. So you can imagine that the pros and cons are going to be quite different to these two. So the pros of the Lord Invocatus, and one of the points that a lot of people have been sold on, is his Warlord trait. Now his Warlord trait allowing himself and 2 other World Eater core units within 9 inches can make a normal move before the start of the game. Essentially, at the start of the first battle round, before the first turn, they move. He moves 12 inches. Say you're taking him along with 8 bound who do have the core keywords, they can move as well. And there's a lot of people saying that they can also benefit from his aura ability, because it says when they make a normal move, they add 2 inches if they are in range of it. So you have to let me know, do aura abilities work pre I suppose it is in the first battle round. So before the first turn, does it work as well? In which case they're moving, I believe, 11 inches, meaning a wild amount to move on a before the first turn. And if you get to move again as you get first turn, that's going to be 24 inches the Lord Invocatus has moved, along with 22 inches on those 8-bound. That's a huge amount to travel in essentially the first turn. Something very, very scary about that. So that's been a huge selling point on him. He's also very fast and has the fly coup word, meaning he can move about at the field's incredible rate. Certainly move about where there is danger points. Can be protected by other units around them, along with semi-decent durability. He has toughness 6, he has a 4-up invul, 8 wounds. That's nothing to look down upon. That will be quite hard to crack, I suppose, and a 2-up save. Now the cons are, he relies on the blood tie system to really ramp up. And what I mean by that is that, yeah, 7 attacks is great, and I suppose when you look at Legion trait, he's going to be 8 attacks. He is going to be strength 7 with his attack. He has only damage 2, and I say only, that is still great. And AP -3, which is still great, but with certain blood tie abilities, that's going to ramp up further. He does manage to ignore invuls, which is going to be really, really handy as well. So yeah, he will step up with it a lot as well. I do think he is quite deadly, but I feel with the extra blood type abilities, he will ramp up even further. Versus Angron, who I feel, no matter, even if he gets the blood type abilities, he's still just going to hit hard anyway, no matter what happens. Damage potential does seem rather limited compared to Demon Prince, and what I mean by that is that the Demon Prince does have the same amount of attacks, but they are striking with potentially damage 3 weapons, though they're not ignoring invul saves, and they will be easily reaching, in fact they start at strength 8, so they have ways to easily get to strength 10 possibly, even if you take Hellforged Swords and the Legion trait. That really helps. The strength 10, 3 damage, really sells me a little bit more on the Demon Prince on that side. Possibly too quick and may leave themselves vulnerable. That has been a problem for the Demon Princes as well, is that they do move very fast, but they don't have so many units that can go along with them. Now with the Lord Invocatus side, I suppose that the 8-bound would be the natural choice because they can come along with the pre-move. Say you wanted something like a Mauler Fiend to go with them, which I think would actually be very, very cool. You can't really do that on the pre-game movement. He could go ahead, but you'd be leaving them behind and leaving himself a bit vulnerable. Though I would love to see him lead a charge of Khorne Berserkers on Juggernauts or bikes or something. That would be very, very cool. But just saying that, you know, he moves quickly, he just might get himself in a bit of a vulnerable position. And I would say that I'm not entirely sold by his aura ability. It is situational. 2-inch extra is not bad. I've seen other aura abilities, specifically Necrons, where it's like 1 inch. Ultimately, I would have said that his ability should have allowed either, if a unit makes an advance roll, they automatically score a 6. I think there are other ways to get this in this codex, though not many. I think it's actually a stratagem. But that would be really handy. If there's no ways that it can advance and charge, that's really good. You're still getting that 6. Or allow a unit to advance and charge. I think that would have been better rather than just adding a straight up 2-inch movement. So the aura ability, I do believe, is not as strong on him. And that is it for my quick video looking at Angron versus the Lord Invocatus. Was I corrected some stuff I was saying? Is there anything you'd like to add? Maybe I was being a little bit unfair in the damage potential of the Lord Invocatus. I actually do think he can do quite a bit of damage. Maybe comparing to Angron in that one is unfair. But yeah, I do believe there are hugely different strengths and weaknesses between these units. I'd love to see Lord Invocatus some more supporting units to come out that would really help him on the charge. And Angron, well, I think he's just going to be barreling forward no matter what. Don't need additional units for him. He is just going to do the damage where he needs to do the damage. Anyway, what do we think of these two? Are you getting one? Are you getting both for your World Eater army? Let me know. Thanks again for watching. Looking forward to the comments, and I'll see you on our Tabletop Assaults Battle Reports.